glass shattered before anyone saw her hand move. Red wine splashed across Julian Crane's $1,000 suit. Gasps filled the golden-lit restaurant. Cameras turned. Every eye locked on Amara Lewis, the waitress who just defied Boston's most powerful investor. Julian's voice cut through the silence. "Do you know how much this suit costs?" Her breathing was shallow, but her gaze didn't flinch. "Less than your respect for people," she said quietly. The tension was thick enough to choke on. One of his associates chuckled nervously. "Julian, let it go." But Julian leaned back, smirking, enjoying the attention. No, let's make this fun. Since you seem to enjoy embarrassing yourself, how about a game?" He reached into his wallet and dropped a thick stack of cash on the table, $100,000. "If you can serve this table entirely in Mandarin without messing up once, all this is yours. If not," he tilted his glass, spilling the last drops onto the floor, "you'll be lucky to keep your job by morning." Phones were already out, recording. The restaurant had gone dead silent. Amara froze. Her heart hammered so loudly it drowned out everything else. The whispers, the music, the hum of luxury. The old her, Dr. Amara Lewis, university lecturer, linguistics expert, would have walked away from this. But that woman was gone, buried under hospital debts and sleepless nights watching her father fight for his life. This Amara wasn't walking away. She stepped closer to the table, voice steady but eyes burning. "I'll do it." A hush fell over the room. Julian smirked, tilting his head. "Go on, sweetheart. Impress us." She picked up the menu and began. 这道菜叫北京烤鸭, she said smoothly, her accent flawless, her tone confident. "This dish is called Peking duck." Her words flowed like a river, each syllable crisp, each phrase natural. The Chinese investors straightened in their seats, their faces lighting up with disbelief and delight. Julian's grin faded slightly. "Not bad," he muttered. Then she switched to Cantonese, explaining the meaning of each dish, the cultural traditions, the stories of family and reunion. The crowd leaned in. Even the kitchen staff peeked through the door. She changed again, this time to Hokkien. The rhythm, the pronunciation, perfect. One investor whispered, "That's native-level fluency." Julian shifted uncomfortably. The laughter that once filled the table was gone. All that remained was the sound of her voice, strong, sharp, unstoppable. And then she looked him in the eye. "Would you like me to continue, Mr. Crane?" He cleared his throat. "All right, we get it." But one of the investors interrupted softly. "No, let her finish." So she did. Her tone carried not just mastery but emotion. Pride, resilience, pain buried under dignity. She ended her presentation with a bow so precise it felt rehearsed for royalty. Applause erupted around the table. Not from Julian, but from the guests, the investors, even strangers who had no idea what she said but knew they'd witnessed something extraordinary. Julian's jaw tightened. "Where did you learn that?" She smiled faintly. "I taught it." The air thickened. One of the guests asked, "You're a teacher?" "I was," she said, collecting the plates. "Before the world decided my father's health was more expensive than my dreams." For a long, stunned moment, no one spoke. Julian stared at her, humiliated in front of the very men he'd tried to impress. His fingers tightened around his glass until his knuckles turned white. When Amara turned away, her reflection in the window caught her eye. Hair tied back, hands trembling slightly. But this time, she didn't see a broken woman. She saw someone who had just taken back everything the world had tried to strip from her. Outside, thunder rolled over Boston. Inside, the whispers began to spread. Who is she? What just happened? And you watching right now? If you think that was wild, wait till you see what happens next. Julian Crane isn't done with her, and what comes after this night will change both of their lives forever. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe, tap like, and tell us in the comments. Who do you think deserves justice in this story? Amara or Julian? Because the storm that's coming will destroy one of them. By morning, the clip had already spread. Waitress humiliates billionaire investor in Mandarin, read the headlines. The video played on every feed, on TikTok, on X, on the evening news. Julian Crane's laugh. Her calm defiance. His stunned silence. A perfect storm of power and pride, and he was the loser. Julian didn't sleep that night. He scrolled through comment after comment, each one cutting deeper than the last. Serves him right. She's a queen. This is what real intelligence looks like. By sunrise, his phone rang nonstop. Investors calling, board members demanding explanations. And in one message from his PR director, "They're pulling out of the deal, Julian. The Chinese partners are gone." He hurled his phone against the wall. The screen shattered. "She thinks she can embarrass me and walk away?" he muttered, pacing like a caged animal. "Let's see how long she lasts when I'm done with her." At the Monarch that evening, Amara moved quietly through the restaurant. Her body was exhausted, but inside, something glowed. A quiet pride she hadn't felt in years. She didn't know she was trending. She didn't see the comments calling her a hero. She only knew that for the first time, she'd stood her ground. But power never forgets humiliation. Julian arrived unannounced, sunglasses hiding eyes that hadn't slept. The room stiffened. Even the manager stepped back. He ordered a drink, slow and deliberate, never taking his eyes off her. When Amara approached to serve him, he smiled without warmth. "Well, if it isn't the internet's favorite linguist." She ignored the jab. "Would you like the usual, sir?" He leaned in. "You cost me $50 million. Did you know that?" "Ms. Lewis?" A calm voice said. "My name is Li Wan. I represent the Beijing International Communications Group. We saw the video." Amara froze. "You saw it?" "Yes. We were very impressed. We'd like to meet." Her voice trembled. "Is this a joke?" "No joke," the caller said warmly. "We believe you're exactly the kind of person our company needs." For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her throat closed, tears burning behind her eyes. And somewhere else in the city, Julian Crane slammed his laptop shut after reading the same news alert. Viral waitress offered a corporate role by a Chinese communications firm. His reflection glared back at him through the dark glass of his office window. "You're not going to win," he whispered. "Not yet." The battle lines were drawn. One woman's dignity versus one man's obsession. And what came next would decide who would rise and who would fall. If you're still watching, don't stop now. It's about to get darker, sharper, and more personal. Hit subscribe, drop a fire emoji in the comments if you're on Amara's side, and get ready. The revenge you're about to see will leave you breathless. The meeting room glowed with morning light, its glass walls overlooking Boston's skyline. Amara sat across from three executives from the Beijing International Communications Group. They spoke warmly, impressed not only by her language skills but by the composure she'd shown under public humiliation. "You understand," one of them said with a smile, "that intelligence with humility is rare in business. We'd like to offer you a position as our multicultural communications consultant." Amara's breath caught. A new beginning. A door she never thought would open again. She smiled, trying to keep the tears from falling. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," the woman replied kindly. For the first time in a long time, hope didn't feel like a fantasy. Felt like a choice. But across town, in a cold boardroom lined with screens, Julian Crane wasn't celebrating. He was plotting. "Track her," he told his assistant. "Every call, every post. Find something that ruins her." "Sir, isn't that illegal?" "So is embarrassment." His jaw tightened. "She made me look weak. I'll make sure she never works again." That night, Amara got the email she'd been waiting for. A formal offer from Beijing Communications. She printed it, placed it beside her father's hospital bed, and whispered, "We made it, Dad. We finally made it." His eyes opened slowly, weak but alive. He managed a faint smile. The next day, Amara woke to hundreds of new messages. Some congratulatory, others cruel. She clicked one headline, "Viral waitress lied about academic credentials?" Her stomach dropped. Another article, "Boston University denies record of employment for Amara Lewis." Her hands shook. "No. That's not possible. Then the phone rang again, the company she'd just signed with. Ms. Lewis, the voice said stiffly. We've received concerning reports about your background. Until this is cleared up, we'll have to postpone onboarding. Her vision blurred. Please, someone's lying about me. I can prove it. I'm sorry, the caller said, but our board won't proceed under controversy. The line went dead. Amara sank onto her couch, tears streaking down her face. She stared at the wall as the world she'd just rebuilt collapsed again. Across the city, Julian raised a glass of scotch, watching the news play out exactly as he planned. Checkmate, he whispered, but arrogance always leaves cracks. By nightfall, a tech journalist named Riley Grant posted a thread online. Something's off about this Amara Lewis story. Her credentials do exist, archived under her maiden name, Amara Weston. So why would anyone say otherwise? The thread went viral. Screenshots, academic papers, conference photos, proof of her past flooded the internet. The comments turned again. She was telling the truth. Someone tried to bury her reputation. Exposé incoming. Julian's smirk vanished. He called his PR team. Control the narrative. But it was too late. An hour later, an email from an anonymous account landed in several journalists' inboxes, containing leaked messages between Julian and his assistant, instructing them to falsify reports about Amara's record. Within minutes, screenshots hit social media. Julian's empire began to crumble in real time. By dawn, his company's stock plunged. The board demanded his resignation. His name, once a badge of power, became a synonym for arrogance and deceit. Meanwhile, Amara sat in the hospital cafeteria, unaware of the storm reversing course outside. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from strangers, apologies from reporters, a notification from the same company that had withdrawn its offer. Ms. Lewis, we deeply regret the misunderstanding. The position is yours, effective immediately. Her chest tightened. Relief. Shock. Justice all flooding at once. She walked to her father's room, kissed his forehead, and whispered, It's over. He can't hurt us anymore. Then she looked at her phone again, at thousands of people standing up for her online. People who had never met her but believed her truth. Her tears finally fell, but this time, they weren't from pain. Narrator voice softens. Music swells. If you've ever been underestimated, if someone ever tried to silence you, remember Amara's story. Hit subscribe, drop, flex biceps justice wins, in the comments, and let this moment remind you, no lie lasts forever. Because in the next part, Amara doesn't just reclaim her life, she changes everything. The morning after Julian Crane's empire collapsed, Boston woke up to a new headline. From waitress to world leader in communication. The woman who spoke truth to power. In every news segment, Amara's voice echoed, not from the viral video, but from a new one recorded in her modest apartment. She spoke directly to the camera, calm and resolute. I didn't plan to become a symbol. I just refused to be silenced. And if my story proves anything, it's that respect should never depend on what you wear or where you work. Within hours, the video spread faster than the scandal that started it. Universities invited her to speak. Companies quoted her in campaigns. And Beijing International Communications made it official. She was now their global cultural director. In the same city where she'd once served wine and endured ridicule, Amara Lewis was suddenly the name on everyone's lips. Julian, meanwhile, sat alone in his glass penthouse. Empty bottles, empty phone, empty life. He watched the news with hollow eyes. Reporters camped outside his gate, demanding comment. But the man who once weaponized arrogance had nothing left to say. He scrolled through one of her interviews, Amara speaking with poise and empathy. She wasn't angry. She wasn't vengeful. She'd already forgiven him. Not for him, but for herself. He whispered into the silence. You win. But Amara never wanted victory. She wanted peace. That evening, she returned to the Monarch for the first time since her suspension. The restaurant had changed, new staff, new faces, but the same golden lights shimmered across the floor. Some recognized her. Some just stared in awe. The manager stepped forward nervously. "Dr. Lewis." She smiled. "It's okay. I know how fear works." He nodded, speechless. She took a slow breath, letting the memory fade. Not out of bitterness, but closure. Outside, Boston's skyline glowed under a soft drizzle. Her phone buzzed. A message from the communications firm. "We'd like you to give a keynote at the Global Language Summit in Tokyo." She looked up at the night sky, rain catching the city lights like tiny stars. A week later, the stage lights in Tokyo reflected off her calm face. Thousands watched as she stepped up to the microphone, wearing a sleek black suit that carried no labels but infinite confidence. "Language," she began, "is more than words. It's identity, it's history, it's power. And when people use it to divide or belittle, they forget what it was meant for: connection." The audience leaned in, silent and moved. She continued, her voice clear, unwavering. "We live in a world that still mistakes wealth for wisdom and arrogance for authority. But I've learned that the greatest power we have is not money. It's understanding." The applause started softly, then grew into a standing ovation that filled the hall. Somewhere in the back row, a young woman recording the speech whispered, "That's her, the waitress from the video." But Amara didn't flinch. She didn't need to be remembered for what she survived. She wanted to be remembered for what she became. As the lights dimmed, she glanced at her father's photo tucked beside her notes. His smile forever frozen in pride. A tear slid down her cheek, but this time, it felt like light, not pain. Narrator voice lowers to a reflective tone. "And that is how the world learned a lesson it couldn't buy. That respect is earned not with money, but with grace." So if you're still watching, take this moment in. Because like Amara, your story might just be one choice away from changing everything. Tap subscribe, leave a globe showing Europe, Africa, respect over wealth in the comments, and share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that no voice is ever too small to be heard.